So this morning, I am talking about social media. So a lot of my research is based on teens, and there's a reason for that. Part of it is because of it affects teens a little bit different than it affects you older people. It does. That doesn't mean you don't have a problem. It just means that for them, we need to understand the best way to help them navigate through this. So I need 2 volunteers to start. I need someone that is under 16 and someone that is over 50. Under 16, come on up, Jack. Okay, is that up or no? All right, come on up. All right, what I'd like you to do, you get to hold that. Don't send any texts or anything bad to people. No. All right, what I need you to do is to describe it without using the word phone in 7 to 10 words. Go ahead. Yeah, that thing.
A device.
Okay.
That mechanical stuff inside of it.
Mechanical stuff inside of it. Techie.
You can use it to talk to people.
You can just talk to people. All right. Is that it?
I guess so.
All right, that's good.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead and pass it on.
Square box that you talk into to communicate to communicate with people
All right.
in various ways, whether it's texting, which is a written way, or through your voice, where you actually talk to somebody, which we don't do that very much anymore.
Okay, finished.
You can have the box back.
Thank you for the box. A little bit different between the two. What's really different between the two, though, is how they use it, most likely. You could hear that. We call it, it's a techie thing with some parts in it. But one thing we know is that it is something that we use for information. We are using it to either give someone information, or a lot more of what we're doing with giving is we're actually taking information from it. And I'm not going to qualify if it's good or bad, it's just information. But current research says this. It says that 17 years of your adult life may, probably will be spent online. Oh, that's a lot. There's a lot of world that God made that is way better than that cool box. And you might be thinking, no, not me, and it depends on your age. 17 years is worldwide because right now we're averaging about 6 hours and 40 minutes a day online. That's a lot of time. It's 47 hours a week, 101 days a year. Do the math there, it's less than a third. But by this estimation, beginning at age 18 will be about 17 years of your life. Americans are actually, we like to outdo everyone. We're a little higher. It's about 18 years of our lives will be spent online. That's pretty intense. When I read that, I was like, wow, that's sad. And then I have to wonder, where do I fit into that? Like, what's my number, right? What's my number? How much time do I spend? I was joking before service. I said, this message sounds like I'm chastising. I'm not. I'm informing you because you need to know this. Now, there were no phones in the Old Testament. We all agree with that. No devices, no phones, nothing going on. Yeah? Okay, you're still there. You haven't checked out yet. There were tablets. Yes, Becca, you used the word tablets. And oddly enough, we're looking at Exodus chapter 32, where these tablets were first written. And in Exodus 32, they didn't see the problems coming, because at that time, the Israelites were delivered from slavery and out of Egypt. And when Moses went up onto Mount Sinai to basically get information, to hear from God, to understand how to lead this nation, the nation got bored. Scripture says they got anxious. They got bored and they got anxious. And they said, where did that fellow might not even come back. He's been up there a long time with God. That's what it says, the fellow. One version says, hey, that fellow, like, show some respect. You'd still be bricking it over there if it wasn't for the fellow. So they got bored, and they said to Aaron, they said, hey, can we do something? Can we make something to worship? And Aaron said, yeah, I guess. And I think he was bullied, but I think there was a lot of them and one of him, so I'm not blaming him. But basically, they took all the gold that they had, and they made this, what did they make? Gold calf. And they started to have a party. And as they partied, they worshiped this calf. And then Moses comes down. And who's he with? Do you remember who he's with? Joshua. Joshua's like, you hear that? And Moses is like, yeah. Sounds like a party. I'm paraphrasing. You can read this on your own. Sounds like a party. So they get down there, and it is a party. But it's not a good party. It's a party where they've kind of forsaken everything. And remember, when Moses comes down, he's holding what? Tablets written on the front and the back. What's he do with the tablets? Throws them down. Throws them down. Now, I don't expect you to make an image of gold and worship it. And I know it's a jump from a phone to a golden calf. But if there's one thing that you hear today, it's this. It's guard your heart. It is guard your heart. Because the first thing that they did is they lost focus on the relationships that were near to them and to God. They shifted from worshiping God to worshiping an idol in not that long of a period of time. And they saw some amazing, awesome miracles. They did. The other thing that they fell prey to is immediate gratification. None of us ever do that, though. We never do that. They had witnessed this awesomeness of God and this marathon of power, but yet they weren't sure where the fellow was, so they thought, well, we got to do something else here. The last thing that they have that we do deal with is negative consequences. Happens to us. And part of what their negative consequences, some of them died, right? If you read the story. And then Moses did something kind of weird. What did he do with that calf? Do you remember? He ground it up. And then, yeah, they drink it. That's different. We're not going to do that with phones. It's weird. But let's just go back to this. They lost focus. They were looking for immediate gratification, and there were consequences. I think we can see that there's a bridge between those things that they did and some of the problems that we are having with social media, or we can also call it the virtual world. Because it is a virtual world. And I'm not just talking about social media, because YouTube is almost, if not as bad. I will actually pause right now and say, if you have kids, don't trust YouTube for kids or whatever it's, because that's what it's called? Kids YouTube. Don't trust that. Don't trust that. There's people that are putting things in that because you trust it. They're ahead of you. But what happens is we start to focus on things that are not of God. And these things become idols. And I am going to talk about teens because that's what I said I'm going to talk about. But this is not just a teen thing. But teen brains, they're so special. Amen? Because they're learning and they're trying to understand how to be accepted in this world as they're changing. Think of all of you, if you had to change again right now in life, how does that go? I know how it goes for some of you. It's not good. But social media is a status game. That's what it is. It is a status game. And it's a status game that is in their pocket, and it's in my pocket 24/7. It's there all the time. And what that does to teens and to you, if you let it, it quantifies your status and your acceptance. Some of you are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Those notifications, those aren't just notifying you to be nice. They're playing with your brain. They are. So if someone posts about a party that a teen wasn't invited to, that hurts way more than any other time in life. So then we can see how not getting enough likes or hearts or invites as friends hurts. Because it hurts even more. And these brain changes at a young age make teens more, I'm going to say it, and I'm sorry if you're a teen, more impulsive and more risk tolerant, which means you're going to have a lot of fun, but you're going to do some dumb stuff. Right? Yeah. I never did any dumb stuff. I'm going to get to this later, but one of the things that as parents we failed you in the way that we've really protected you from real world hurts. It's okay to have some real world hurts, to go out and live life and to get beat up a little bit. Not killed, beat up a little bit. And to grow and to learn. We've sheltered you from that, but yet we've given you the whole world. The whole world. Just whatever you want is on here. Whatever you want. And we expect teens with a brain that is impulsive and risk-taking to understand what to do with that. Because my generation didn't have phones growing up. So we thought it would just be okay. But it's not really okay. You see, the person who gets the rude comments and the bullying, it hurts more online, it hurts more as a teen, and that's why we think that this generation is more anxious and more depressed than ever. Because they're feeling it and they're seeing it and they can't shut it off. And as a parent, I've given my daughter the phone. This isn't their fault, it's our mistake. The next thing is teens are more at risk for addiction. They just are. If you fall into addictive behavior, let's say you have your first alcoholic drink at 14, you have a 50% chance higher of being addicted than if you wait till 21. 21, your chance is about 10%. Yeah, that's crazy. But we've given people phones that we know drives an addictive behavior, and we haven't given them tools to deal with that. And this is a critical time when we're dealing with the social part of life too. So what happens is, just like drugs and alcohol can be an escape, phones, social media, virtual world are an escape as well. We need to know that. Someone asked me a while ago, I had a patient that was like a middle school teacher, and I'm like, why would you ever do that? Like, I don't know why you guys do this. God bless you. I pray for you once in a while, and I laugh way more often. But they asked me, would you go back to middle school? I'm like, I don't think I would. I have some great stories from middle school. It wasn't great though. Because you want to be accepted. You want to be the person that somebody wants to fist bump, to say, hey, will you be on my team? Will you do this? Will you do that? So at this point in our lives as teens, we're actually low-hanging fruit to be manipulated by the system. It's just true. Because we get comfort and we get rewards from a device instead of people. I know, it's Sunday morning, it's early, it's 9:44. But this is truth. Because a lot of us have teens in our lives that we can help to navigate this. This also hits adults, though. Like, this is not just a kid thing, not a teen thing. I did put in my notes way more than I usually do. Don't read them now, but I just kind of threw some in there so they're my rough draft notes so you can see what's going on. And I did a little bit about dopamine because it's all based on dopamine. The other thing that happens is with devices, it's almost like secondhand smoke. Remember when we didn't think that was a bad thing? When you were in the car and people were smoking, you're like, I'm fine, I'm not smoking the cigarette with them. Yeah. Well, now the Surgeon General said smoking's bad, secondhand smoke is bad, all that stuff. But basically, when you're with someone who's on a device, it affects you in a way that's similar to secondhand smoke. Even if you're not on it. Actually, if you're not on a device, you get this, I'm missing in action, your anxiety goes up. What are they doing? Are they talking about me? My friends would never talk about me, would they? Yes, they would. Then we get fear of missing out. And then we don't know what to do with that. So then we go get our phone, and then we start looking for things, and we don't find it. It compounds itself. Research says that this happens actually with spouses too. So if you're on the couch and your spouse is on the phone, you are basically blowing smoke in their face. Stop it. Because they're wondering why you're more invested in that device than you are in them. I don't know. The more I research, the more I realize that this could be a series and not just a one-off message. But listen to this. It's not just what about smartphones and social media are inserting to us and into us. It's what they're taking us away from. They're taking us away from time outside, activities together, time with others, time focusing on other things that could give you a longer and a better benefit, like books, art, real friendship, and the list goes on and on and on. That's not just for teens, though, that's for all of us. Because these companies, and I sound so anti-tech, I'm not, but these companies have created this portal. And this portal basically is when our brains go into it, and like I said, it's not just what they're putting in, it's what we're losing out on. We've given these companies a portal to our children. One author said this. He said that they can control and manipulate them, send them notifications whenever they want. You realize that if you have kids, right? That's what happens. They are controlling and they are manipulating you. I love science and I love brains. If I was to go back, I'd be a neurologist or something fun like that. But what they've done is they've taken science and they've used it against you guys. For you adults that are on Facebook, and if you're on Instagram, but Facebook I know for sure. If you pull up your Facebook feed, there's a pause before it tells you your notifications. It's not because your internet's slow. It's because that pause makes you want it more. It's true. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, where's it at? And then they show it to you, and then when you see that heart, like, one, whatever the notification is, you get more dopamine in your brain. And what's dopamine make you do? You feel good. So we can't blame our kids for doing this because they don't even know to turn off notifications. How many of us don't turn off notifications? Turn your notifications off if you haven't already. As parents, we want a high level of safety often. And then there's sometimes we want a low level of safety. If I'm walking in the field, if I'm walking with my nieces in the field, my nephew in the field, he probably doesn't need to wear a helmet on his head like he would when he's riding a bike. Is that fair? That's fair. If he's on the road on a bike, yeah, let's put a helmet on him. So we need to understand that the amount of risk and the amount of things that we allow our kids needs to be dependent on context, right? We have vastly overprotected our children in the real world. There's this thing called helicopter parents. If that's you, sorry. But there's also this other thing called a snow plowing parent, where you plow all of your kids' problems out of the way. That's the next generation. Snow plowing parents. We've done that in an effort to overprotect. But at the same time, we've taken away their freedom. We've vastly unprotected them in the virtual world. We can't even sue companies that are harming them. And a lot of kids are getting severely damaged in many, many different ways. We think that because we've given them hand sanitizer every time they turn the corner, that's good. Well, I'm not going to argue that. Or bike helmets all the time. Or organic foods, that we're saving them from pesticides. But yet in the real world, we've given them these phones that are way worse than what's out there. In the real world, the virtual world is the enemy, guys. I can't say that enough. Because the more I read, the more I studied, the more I was like, oh, I've made some mistakes. So if you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, if you have kids in your life, this is a conversation that I would ask you to open up with people in your circle. At least have the conversation of, do you understand how to shut notifications off? Don't let your kids take their devices into the bedroom. If you're having dinner, put the devices away. These are easy things. And I will list all these out in some notes in an email and send it out to you. But I just don't have time to go word for that today. But it goes back to this, that as adults, we need to be guarding our hearts. And as parents and grandparents, we want to be guarding the hearts of our children as good as we can and as we know how. And I know it's not easy. You have to be diligent, and you're going to be tired doing it. At the end of the day, you're going to be like, why did I even get them a device? You need to feel like that to be doing enough work on that device. They're quicker than you. They're smarter than you when it comes to a device. Anyone who thinks that that's not true, you're wrong. They're good. They're really good. They don't even know how good they are. They just know that you're really bad at finding them. It's true. Proverbs 4:20 and 27. My child, pay attention to what I say. Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart, for they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Can we just put a pin in that for a second? Guard your heart. We already said that social media virtual world is attacking hearts. We need to understand to guard it because it does determine the course of our lives. Avoid all perverse talk. Stay away from corrupt speech. None of that online. Look straight ahead and fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. Don't get sidetracked. None of that on the device either, right? Keep your feet from following evil. I pray that you take this and use it however you can. And I know some of you, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. You were doing a nice job. But some of us need to step our game up. And some of us, even as adults, need to, okay, maybe I need to pause this. If we're losing that many hours a week, I don't think that's an okay thing to trade for friends, family, relationship with God.